Okay. So, and I'm going to maximize my virtual machine, and I'm going to bring up just a notepad so that it'll be on the video there about what we're going to do tonight, I hope. Okay. So one of the things, and this could go really well or really badly, we need to install MySQL and Workbench. And I'll show you how to do that, and we'll walk you through it. There's a lot that could go wrong with this, but hopefully it'll go smoothly. And then once we've done that, we're going to look at the next database, which in the assignments that I loaded up, where I have like a Python club, and basically it's like a back end for a website to manage club activities. And the reason I did that is that MySQL is used a lot for the back ends of web pages, and particularly that kind of thing. And in fact, if you ever did WordPress, WordPress rides on MySQL, right? So basically, it's the kind of database MySQL does really well. So we'll look at that. And mostly what we'll do is once we'll start designing it in the Workbench. Workbench is a lot like the SQL Server Management Studio that we've been playing with. It has a lot of the same features, but not all of the same features. So, and it feels a little different. But we'll look at that. I don't think we'll get any farther than that tonight, but we might. Well, I doubt it. I actually do doubt it. But that's kind of what I want to do tonight. Any questions? No? Anybody have fun plans for the weekend? I'm ready for the weekend. Work, yeah. All right, so and I'm in the virtual machine right now, right? So I'm going to just lower that. I'm going to bring up, I guess, doesn't matter which. I just want to get to Canvas. I want to show you, there's a link in there to MySQL, all right? I don't understand who all, this virtual machine, has somebody messed with it since I last used it. Their IDs and their passwords and everything are in here. That's very bizarre. So all right, so I'm going to go in and I'll show you the link. It's an announcement. So I'm going to go into the Canvas ITC 220. I think that's the fall. Is this the right one?
It says fall.
Yeah, so I need to go back. I'm teaching 2 sections of this in the fall. Yeah, there it is. All right, so announcements. Slowly. Okay, so right at the top, you should be able to see this link to MySQL installer. And I'm just going to click on that. And it should, yeah. Here's the thing too, is I don't know how slow it'll be when we're all doing this at once. You'll be on a different network, ones with laptops. So you might actually have a better deal with it. Come on, go. All right. The one we want to install is basically just this first one. It says 32-bit, but it'll do 32 or 64-bit. This is a hard to install. It's actually easier to install, I think, on Windows than on Linux. Linux is its more native thing. So we just want, when you go to the installer, so it comes up on the page like this. Just scroll down until you see the actual installer and you see the first download button. Actually, it might be the second download. I'm not sure what the difference. It's a lot bigger, but I want to make sure this one might only have the database is what I'm thinking, and this one has the database and workbench. Let's do the second download button. I'm going to click it. I did the second one just a few minutes ago testing. So it says to begin your download, and you can log in to Oracle if you want. I'd say just no thanks, just start my download. If you want to log into Oracle, it's free. They just send you newsletters about MySQL. So I'm going to save it. And hopefully it won't take too long. Mine says 30. When it's done, it'll ask if you want to open it and then run. And then I'll walk you through. But I'm going to not start my walkthrough until you guys are set up. So I'm just going to do run. But I'm going to hold there until everybody's at this point.
Oh, it's installed.
Oh, it's installed. Oh, you're already covered it. You're installed. Go ahead and hit run and it'll install the installer. It says it's already installed. Oh, if you hit the run. Yeah, that's why it's in the process. So this is the My Installer. We're not installing it yet, we're just installing the installer. How about you guys? You got it? Are you in a virtual machine?
They were out there working last night.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna say. Like, she asked me to build one. I was just thinking for one that wasn't working.
Was it on this machine?
So I just found that one. I'll go with that. She like, it's appropriate. It wasn't like, not appropriate for school. He's doing something.
These are not exactly the No, they're working to do that.
I got most of my stuff done.
So do you want to go?
By the time I was done with it,
Let's just close this out. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go there in a sec. Conference portion. Anybody help you in how long?
I will need help.
Did mine go away for the? So mine I waited too long on. Let's go to downloads. All right, so I'm going to say yes. All right, so like with most of these, I mean, if you're moving on, you can, but you have to accept the license terms. Someday I'll read them. I should.
Everyone should read them at least once.
Yeah. We're doing the community edition, which is free, right? So it is free. I'm going to do next, and we're going to do mostly the developer default. Notice it installs the MySQL server. You could do just the server, or you could just do the client products. But I think we'll just go with the default because we want the server. We don't really need the shell, although it might be good to show that. We really want the workbench. We don't need the MySQL for Excel. There's a lot of these that actually, when we go to the next page, it'll say it can't do them. Right, so it can't do the SQL for Excel, and it can't do the connector with Python because we don't have those things installed. And that's fine. We're not going to use those right now. So I'm going to just do next again. And I'm going to say yes, because it basically says those things won't be installed. So these are the things that are ready to be installed. And it's more than we really need. We don't need the MySQL for, there's a bunch of stuff we really don't need here, but I'm going to just go execute. And if you get behind here, I'll come around. We'll get you all there. So with ideally, they should come up with check marks. They have a cute little pencil there that until it checks. Now, one of the things I think that Nicole was going to have you do is go onto the cloud to do this, and one of the advantages of that is that it's all installed for you. Right? One of the advantages of the cloud in general is that everything is sort of installed. They just spin up a virtual machine for you, and it's all there. But if you want to install it locally, or if you go to work for some kind of cloud company, then you'll learn how to install it. It's not hard. They make the installers pretty good. And with luck, these won't crap out. My only fear, some of your hard drives are right up against the edge in terms of space. We're installing MySQL. So when you get into your virtual machine, as I said, I'll spend a little time getting everybody here. It's going a little slower. Because of the virtual machine. There's a lot more complication when we get to the configuration. There's a lot of, you have to set up some passwords and things. Why is it hanging? I don't care about the Visual Studio. You can go past that. Yeah. I wonder if we could go back and cancel this. Did others go past that okay? Yeah, you're good. That must be just So let's look at them when we get there. If I can get there, if I ever get past this 92%. Did you find it?
So, I did the second one. A little bit bigger, but I think it's because it has more features. You don't have to log in or sign up. You go down below, you can just. Yeah. I got past the Visual Studio. Well, you don't want to go into Vincent Brown's thing. Why is it doing that? Yeah, you might have to. Give it a few minutes. If it doesn't come back, then we'll restart it. Now, this thing, as I said, I want to get everybody up to speed on this, so there may be a bit of chaos and slowness while I go around and help people who crash.
Dead space in the video.
Yeah. More dead space on the video, yes. It's not a hard one, so I'll walk all the way through it and then I'll circulate and help people. Yeah.
I do. I was working with Kira.
So you're saying last time you were using your CD?
Yeah. So we finished.
Nice.
Let's get started on this.
What's it in here?
Just, I already
Yeah. 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 He was a.
I can't
He
see.
had a couple of classes. We always had it on.
Make sure that
Yeah. That's dope. Is he,
worst case scenario.
is he gonna do that? More.
So again, I'll help you through this. I think mine is finally there. So I'm going to walk through, as I said, and then I'll come around and help. So these are things that it's ready to configure. And what we have to do is basically go through and configure them. So one of the things it's going to ask, we are not going to do a cluster. Okay, so a cluster is where you have multiple copies of the server that copy files to each other so that if one fails, you can fail over to another, right? It keeps you up and running. This version, by the way, you can do that, but you're not allowed to run it as a commercial thing. It's just for testing. The commercial one costs money. But this doesn't. We're just going to do MySQL. Just a standalone. And so it's a development machine, which is fine. By default, the connections to it are going to be through TCP/IP, and that's fine. Named pipe is kind of old. Shared memory is kind of a problem sometimes. You can go into advanced, but most of the time, database communication is over the internet protocol now. So we're just going to leave that as is. Guys with me? So you need a root password, right? And I am just going to do password. Real life, don't do that. I mean, you can make it whatever you want, but you need a root password. So I'm going to do p@ssw0rd1. I type that 1 billion times a day, so I'm used to it. p@ssw0rd1. It actually doesn't. It tells you what your strength is, but it doesn't I don't think it's enforcing anything. It says a minimum of 4 characters. So you can probably just say pass. All right, I'm going to do this. You don't necessarily have to, but if you don't want to log in as root, we can add a user. You can name your user what you want. I'm going to do SP Conga. It's what I use a lot. The role, I'm going to leave it as DB admin. This says all hosts. I don't know if what we have in the dropdown. I think the only one, well, we could leave it at all hosts, but I think it'll be into local host is all we're going to have. I'm going to do the same password here. I don't want to forget my password. Again, if you're doing this for any kind of real use, you should think of something a little bit better. So if you don't do this, and again, I'll help you when you get there, you just you have to log in as root, which is not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good either. Because I'm in the role database admin, I have all the permissions that I would have in root anyway. So, and there are other roles you can do. So there's database admin, there's backup admin, but that just allows you to back things up. It doesn't allow you to then restore them. There's a designer, which would allow you to design a database, but wouldn't allow you to actually use the database. There's an instance, which allows you to maintain the server, but you don't have any rights in the databases. You can monitor. You can administer processes. Process admin allows you to kill processes if they're like if there's like a deadlock. Deadlock is where two people or two resources are asking for the same thing at the same time, and it can't decide which, so it just hangs. And there's a security admin, which allows you to set up security. These are built-in roles. You can make your own roles. I usually find the built-in roles to be too general to be all that useful. It's usually better to make your own. But I'm going to leave this as DB admin. And you probably don't want to name yours SP Conga. Probably just want to name, you know, whatever name you want to log in as. Questions on that? There have been times, particularly when I did this on Linux, because then it's all text, when I forgot my root password and I installed it all and then I couldn't get in. Ooh, do not do that. If I pick a time, yeah, 5:28 p.m. today, no way. How about tomorrow when I'm not here? I do not want it to crash right now. So I'm going to do next. And so this MySQL 5.7 is going to be the name of it. It's going to start it at the server startup. It's going to run as a system account as service. It runs in the background just like SQL Server did. Right? I'm mostly accepting the defaults on these, if that helps. I'm going to do next. I'm actually not going to do anything here. We're not going to use it as a document store. And you could do this in SQL Server too, but I'm not going to do it, so I'm not going to check that, and we're just going to ignore that. So these are the steps that it's going to do to configure. They look like you should be able to check on these, but you really can't. It's just an execute, and it goes through and does all these things. Noticing the Windows Notice services have changed. Okay. And when you're done with that,
and finish. There's still a little bit of, I think actually it just goes to a little bit more configuration. We're not doing a cluster, so we can ignore that page. We can finish. Next. So it gives us the root credentials again, just to check on it. It's running at 64 bits. What does it want? Oh, it wants me to check to see if that works. Yes. Last configuration, I think. Checking to see if there are any features installed in need configuration, starting the server, and then it stops the server. And I think this time when I say finish, well, maybe not. Next. So it's going to ask if we want to start MySQL Workbench. And I'm going to say yes and finish. This is the MySQL shell, but we're not going to use that. This is the Workbench, which we'll play with in a minute. First, I'm going to make sure everybody got here. So if you go to the campus, there's a link to yeah. That's the version that should spread out. So do that one. Because there's also, you can make it stretch. Oh. Oh, yes. I know.
Calories, I took that off.
Well, I don't know if we're making a difference.
Oh, paralyzed.
So did you get that shot my first?
The other one.
So the
Responsive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I go ahead now, and then it's
Which is the result of the cycle down. Everything.
scroll down to say, and then when it's done, I'll say that. So there might be a little while while we set this up. Are you still getting installers?
Yeah.
You got the workbench. You got the workbench. You're getting there.
Discuss past and certain questions.
When I first ran this,
Because having those questions answered, is one, is like this, okay, well, this is the purpose of the site, we can target on these. Yeah. But that's what I get. That's to do all this stuff, because the purpose of the site. No, the purpose of this site is to reach our academics. Students. We want that to students. Because it's a college professor, so we want those two together. Not all clients, because we also have. So those are his three areas.
So he doesn't have a site now?
He does. He has a WordPress site. So it's built type .wordpress.com. He's our company. But so last quarter, I had 4 papers ready for it. So I take pictures of the bill, like, hey, notes on this, keep the notes. And me, changes. And
Some options in the I showed the first one.
Not technical.
Excel. Yeah, what you done?
as long as you're going for a degree.
Well, there's certain one that didn't have to.
Yeah, right.
This is my scale of math.
My credit state transfer over from
Yeah, that's what I was gonna try to do.
because that's my industry. Still not going to have that before.
What is it? 20 years.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. That's an issue.
Anywhere you work, they have to take.
They just don't have to give you benefits.
You work time. Unless you find out. I got about here that he found a job that works like 80 hours or 6 months.
So just to do
And if you call that.
It shouldn't matter. That should be what it's using. Yeah.
You doing working? Yeah, I think so. For you? I just downloaded.
So we'll get going here in just a minute. This will be a dead spot on the.
Scripting, I learned my first time.
Oh, okay. Nice.
When I went to school.
So, yeah, we're just definitely.
It's fairly simple. So are you trying to teach the course time?
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, pretty much. Except we- And then it's just see there in a second. Just go next. It's gonna.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. Yeah. And also just,
You're done. Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I was starting.
So we've got a few more people. Once we get almost everybody there.
oh, really? What's his called going to be as
He's never gonna touch the code. Yes, they'll know more what it's simple things.
Yeah.
He's got so much
He looks
other
like
stuff.
Chuck Norris.
I did loading stuff. I did visuals.
Yeah.
I did, if I find something that would be like a pad, take a look at this, send it off to Chrome. Like, we'll, next project, we hire a freelancer. That's what I'm actually.
That's cool.
So I think we've got, what do we got, 3 weeks left? 3 weeks, so we'll do this one together. And for those that didn't finish the first thing, I will give you, well, I'll figure out an open lab day for that. One of the class times we'll make an open lab. After we get through this and I'll tell you ahead of time, so if you don't have anything to fix, you won't have to be here. All right, so we're almost there. Almost everybody's got it. Yeah, that's fine.
We also have a design.
All right, so I think I'm gonna kind of move ahead. Actually, what I'm gonna talk about next will give you some time to finish, those that aren't finished. So before we go into the direct workbench, so we have it there. You can close the command line one if you want, unless you really just want to do it on the command line. I'm just going to minimize this. I'm not going to close it. What I want to do is go back to the, so the assignment, we're going to make a database.python club. I'm going to show you where we can get a document for that. I'm going to go to, not spconger. I am going to go to github.com spconger. I think we went there before to get database. And you don't have to go there because we're going to talk through it together. I'm just going to put it up here. On the database schema, I have a Python Club PDF. And the reason I put it here is Nicole did something where I cannot put files for you to download. So this way you can have the file, and it's here. So this is just a description of what the database is going to do, right? So we're going to kind of walk through the same kinds of stuff we did before. We're going to design it, talk about what the tables would be, what the columns would be, that kind of thing. We're going to build the diagram in the workbench, and then we'll make the database, we'll add some sample data, and we'll do some queries to it. We might, if we have time, talk a little bit about security. We'll at least talk about it. If we have time, I'll show you some stuff. So this is basically, there's a school club that meets weekly to discuss programming language Python. They also have meetups and speakers. And they need a website, and they want a database to keep track of the stuff behind it. Again, MySQL is the most popular database by far for the web, for it being the back end to web pages. It is built into WordPress. That's what WordPress uses for its content management storage. So it's all there. So that's why I was making kind of a social media one here. The purpose is to serve as a content management for the website. It has to track all their meetings and the places and the summaries of the meetings. It should list all the speakers and presentations, as well as upcoming meetups and events. And it should also track all the resources and tutorials posted by the members, and there should be a list of general announcements. And I already built some business rules for you. Only members can post announcements and add to the resources list. Only club officers can post meeting times and summaries. Club members can report announcements as inappropriate, but only club officers can remove them. Any club member can add a notice of a meetup or an event. Anybody in the public can view the site. So those are sort of my thing. We can ignore the task. But that's sort of the database that we're going to build. Questions on that? Does that make sense? No, you guys are quiet. No. You're tired as I am. I'm just looking to see what So I went to, so I'm going to make a new there's a little plus. Yeah, and then what I did and then so there's as I said, I put them there rather than in Canvas because I can't put any files in Canvas. I maybe could have made a link to it in something, but just as an aside, GitHub is a really useful site. It's sort of the industry standard for posting code for sharing, and also for group, for version and management, tracking versions of software and stuff. GitHub has really become the place. It's free if you are public. It costs a little bit of money if you're doing private repositories,
Like
although
$5 a month or something like that.
yeah, and if you're a student, I think you can get 2 or 3 or 4, I forget how many private repositories for free. But yeah, it's not a lot of money. Private is better if you're writing something that's going to make you big money because you don't necessarily want to share everything. Microsoft recently killed CodeFlex because it was doing the same thing as this, and this is much more popular. So.
There's also the GitHub shell that you can get.
Yeah, you can have a local one. I usually just upload it to the website, but you can.
Well, you can actually link your website one to the shell.
Right, and then Visual Studio will actually connect to GitHub. So anyway, there's a lot of. It's a nice site. I have again, I'm kind of stalling for a couple people to catch up. I have a lot of repositories. I have like 91 repositories.
If you ever want to look at them, you're welcome to. They're often stuff that we just did in class that I posted up there for the class. So there's a lot of weird things.
So I see one up there that says C# with Mongo. Does Mongo use C#?
No, but you can talk to Mongo with C#. So I did a web page. I think I just did it in here. So there's a Mongo driver, and this just connects. I had an existing database, but it just gives you connections to the database, and I just posted it in a grid view. So, and you can connect to Mongo with Python. Actually, there are drivers to connect to Mongo from pretty much any programming language. I think I did it with Java, similar too.
I'm used to working with C#.
Yeah, I heard you were using Unity. So
Well, Unity also does have Java in it.
does it? I only use C# in it.
That's
My
what
problem
I
is I don't have any good game ideas.
So just, yeah, just,
Yeah, JavaScript.
You have to,
and then you'll need to give it a password. Yeah.
I'm still learning.
You're out of your range.
I don't know.
So since
I appreciate that.
Oh, I thought you were
No, I'm
reading me
just
down.
saying.
Oh, okay, hi. Everybody over here?
with that,
Fantastic. I expected all kinds of problems because I'm. Good. Oh, good. We think we're gonna go for the small plan and add the larger plan.
so you're.
That was what we were aiming for.
Yeah. Well, Kira's told us so much about what's going on with the change more back. Like, do we need to do more on our website? To delete it.
And it's a long deprecated version of it.
Yeah.
Ancient.
So he said, he says like, something like that.
25.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's gonna,
Joomla is not to an extent.
a generated database. There's 57 tables and most of them have that data.
That's why I said it's nice to a.
The table that has all the data that we need.
You can't get to it.
Oh, I can get to it. I can see it. No, I can't see. How it associates with them together. I
So
can't
you
find all
probably
the
want
things
to.
that associate them. So it's, have you seen the website?
No, he hasn't shown
So
me.
it's got pages that are,
Just do a quick pass.
you know, a profile of the person.
Yeah.
So it's got the name, the country, what they do, the story about them, and some more information about them. That, every single field on that page is a separate row.
And I think that's fine next. And,
This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, he didn't go that way. He was telling me that it's Joomla, that.
I'm not sure we understand what
He
I'm
was,
talking
he was
about.
running more, he was telling me more about the issue where the server got on it.
Okay, so anyway, the C# and all of that isn't super relevant to right now, but
We went off on a tangent.
yeah. But we're almost everybody's there. So I'm going to bring up Workbench. And what we'll do is we're going to start modeling that Python club, just talking about what kinds of tables it would have, what are the fields. You know, it's going to take a while, but I think we'll build it in MySQL Workbench. There's a thing, if you do File and New Model, it will go here and it'll say MyDB, and it'll give you some properties. Now this is, it's a little bit different than SQL Server for the look and feel of it, but the principles are pretty much the same.
one of the things that we're going to do here is we'll change the name of the database and we'll build it. The diagram is not the database. In SQL Server, when you built a diagram and then you saved it, it was the database. Here, the model is actually separate from the database. But when you're done, there is a menu option that says port it into a database. So you can take your diagram and make a database out of it. So what I'm doing is I double-click MyDB, and I'm going to change the name to Python Club. Okay, and that just changes the database here. I'm trying to look at the bottom of this. I'm going to maximize because I don't see. Okay, so that looks okay. And then notice this little plus add diagram. I'm going to add a diagram. And if you screw up on any of this, it's fine. You can always redo. You can always come back and fix it. When I do the diagram, it gives me literally a screen to do a diagram. How are you guys doing? I have no idea why it could go on. It might be a thing with you're getting that? Good. So do file, and I'll be over there in a second. So file, new model. And I double click on the MyDB. Okay, I'm going to change the name to that, or whatever you want. Yeah. There are a lot of weirdnesses in here, just to let you know. It is open source and it's all right, so when you want to bring a table in here, there's a little diagram here. We'll worry about relations later, but you might notice they have the little, the crow's feet there to add. But let's do, I'm just going to click on this box for a table. And you can drag it on there and just put it wherever you want. Okay, and when I double click it, it opens up some properties that go down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to enter, what tables would we need? Just think of the Python Club. What kinds of tables do we need? We can refine this until we're done. It doesn't have to be perfect when we start.
Members.
Right, so we need members. That is one of the tables that we'll probably need. So what would members contain? So down here, we have a list of column names, right? So this is the members table. We changed the name here. But here we're going to enter the column names. We're going to set the table data type. PK stands for, what do you think? Primary key. NN, it's a little less obvious. Not null. U key is unique. B is, I'm not entirely sure. Binary. Must be. Binary.
Actually, it says binary on there.
Oh, if you mouse over?
Yeah, if you hover over it.
Ah, okay. And UN is unsigned data type. Fill up columns for that 0 with zeros if it's numeric. Auto increment. Okay. And G is generated column, but we won't do that. So if I click in here, it actually creates a column called ID members. If you want that, it can be your key field. I don't know why they do ID before members, but it does. Notice it gives it an if data type. If I click on PK, first of all, it goes to not null because primary keys have to be not null. And then if I go to auto increment, then it'll be it'll count the numbers, right? It'll auto count them. Although the designer here doesn't add the numbers automatically, no matter what you say. When we do data entry, I think we're going to do it with SQL just because it's a pain to do it in here. And you don't want to enter into the model. Okay, so does that give you sort of the idea? And there's other properties down here. You can also put comments on a field if you want, which is sort of nice. So you can document things. But what other kinds of fields would, so it says members call, but you don't want that. What do you want for other information you'd want about a member? So you want the member's name. Do you want to break it into last name and first name, or just do, okay. Yeah, I think it makes some sense. So I'm going to do, let's leave the members. I like the naming convention that uses the table name, but let's do it as like first name. Now he gave it a varchar 45, which is probably good. Varchar, again, is variable character. So it's basically a string. Do we want to make the first name required? Some people only go by a last name or a single name. Thinking Madonna or Bono. So you can, if you want it required, you can put not null. I'm going to leave it not required. And then I'm going to do members. Oh, you have to click down here. So I'm going to do members last name. And that one I'm going to require. And then I'm going to do members email. And I might change the size of that. There's a place where I can do that. Where is it?
Yeah, you can go with our.
Well, I know you can.
Oh,
I know you can do that, but there's another place you could do it. There's a dialog box somewhere. 255 is the max, again, for varchar. Interestingly, in SQL Server that we did before, in varchar was Unicode, but here varchar is Unicode. They don't have a non-Unicode option. And the email I would make required. Do we need anything else about the members? Does that make sense? I don't think we care what their addresses are, maybe, but the email is probably good enough. There are a couple of different kinds of ways you could do security. One of them is you could put the password in here, but you can also log in directly into the server. Since members are going to be not that many, you can probably get away with that. And you can put them in groups. Right? So let's, I guess, not put passwords in here. So we got members, right? Can you see from back there? What other kinds of tables would we have? What kinds of events? So we do have events. And as I said, nothing is permanent here. We can fix anything. So to see the rest of the toolbar, see these little double arrows here? If you want to descend the properties window, you can click on that. Oh, no, that didn't do it. I want to get this down. Oh, I can click on this to close it. Then I can bring in another table. Double click it, it'll bring the property table back up. I can do, so events.
Okay, and if I double click here, it gives me the ID events, and I think we can go with that naming convention if we want. I'll click primary key. It does not null first. And then, so what do we need to know about an event?
Date.
So we need to know the date. So let's do event date. I might make it event singular. Well, whatever. Date, there should be, if we look here, there's a lot of different data types. But one I'm going to use is just date. Hopefully that'll be happy. So we'd also need to know the time, right? So I'm going to say event time. And I believe that there is a time. There is a time. It's a function. Yes, I know. So I want it to be time. And then I think inside of those parentheses, I need to say, so we got 2, 2, and 2. Let's say 6. And I think it'll be happy when I do that. And I think what I'm saying by 6, and this is a guess, actually, is that I want 2 digits for the hours, 2 digits for the minutes, and 2 digits for the seconds. We probably don't need seconds. So I want my date, or my precision on the date to be 6 digits, right? Hours, minutes, and seconds. Before we do the event place, we probably need, if we think about it, we might need a place for places, right? We could, there's a couple of ways you could do it. Typically for a web page, they might not be that careful and they might just put the place in here, just write the place name. But you might end up having to say the same place over and over again. And you might want to know the addresses to the place. Does that make sense? So I'm actually, before I finish this table, I'll get another table, and then I could show you a little bit about relations. I'm starting this off, but I think eventually I want you guys to take over a little bit. So I'm going to do place, or places. I'm going to ID places, and again, this will just be primary key, internet. So I'm going to do, what it would be the columns for places.
Address.
Okay. One of the things I would do is like place name too, right? And then the address. I'm going to do like place city. And if we scroll down, we can keep adding stuff. State, well, are we going to assume they're all in state? Maybe not. I'm going to add place zip code. And you could, if you want, change that to like an 11 max. And this could be like a 2 max. Whoa. I wiped it out. I think is there a car? There's var car. There is a car. Yes, I know. I'm just going back to car. And inside of those, I'm going to put 2. Do you guys know the difference between car and varchar? Doesn't matter a whole lot. But when it could matter if you're doing real efficiency things. Varchar is variable character. I say 45, or I could say 255, whatever there. It only writes the amount that is that the actual value has. So Seattle is what, 7, 8 characters? Even though this says 45, it'll only write 7 characters or so. Car is fixed width. So this car will always print 2 characters. That's because I want the state to be limited to 2 characters. If I said that this was car, it would always write 45 characters, no matter what the size of the word inside is. So why you would do the decision, varchar is better for disk space, because it only uses the disk space that it needs, but it requires more processing power because it has to calculate the size of the field each time. That could slow things down. So one of the choices you have to make when you're building a database is which is more important, disk space or processing power. It doesn't matter unless you're doing millions of writes per second or something. It probably isn't going to affect things too much, but it could affect things in certain contexts. I tend to go for disk space over speed, but you know, performance might dictate otherwise. Can you see it? I don't know if I can make this bigger, but you're welcome to come look. So I made it up. What I have is varchar, car, and varchar. I made the zip code 11, and I made the zip code. Some of you would want to make it as an int, and you can, except that there are some zip codes that start with 0, and 0 is not a valid int. You can't start an int with 0. It'll just strip it off. So it makes more sense to do zip code as a character string. I always like phone numbers too. I just make them character strings generally, because you're never going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide them. So there's no reason to make them numbers. Does that make sense? And there are sometimes when numbers get you in trouble with those. Speaking of phone numbers, that's the last thing I'm going to add here. So it didn't go there. So I'm going to say place phone. And how many characters does a phone have? If you, yeah, that's a decision you have to make. Do you want the dashes and the parentheses or no? So is it 13 with them or 10 without? Something like that. I generally don't put them in there, but is 10 enough? 3, 3, what?
I think.
Yeah, let's not worry about country code. You could, though. Actually, that's something you have to really think about if you're starting to put limits on these. Are you going to do the country code? Do you need any other additional characters? You know, or is everything going to be out of the country? So, one of the things I haven't done with this was I didn't make required. I'd say the place name is probably required. The address is required. I'm going to put all of these pretty much as required. Questions on this? You guys are somewhat talking, but so I'm going to close this partially just because I need this. So this is my places one. I am going to add a field here. Actually, I'm going to try something. I have memories of this. If I do, and one place could hold many events, right? So I am going to do a 1, 2 in. These are a little dangerous, just to let you know. These. So I think I want to go this side to this side. And that actually worked. The reason why these are dangerous is a couple of things. One, they work backwards for me. You click on the child table first and then go to the parent table. You need to use the dashed line, not the solid line. So notice there's two of them down here. There's one with solid and there's one with dashes. The dashed line just puts the foreign key in there. Notice I didn't add the foreign key. It created the foreign key for me. It's not exactly the same name. It's places underscore ID places int, which is okay. I mean, it's an okay name for it. The foreign key has a little diamond there. It's fine. If you do the solid line, I'll do that. Hopefully I can undo it. So I'm going to click on this and delete. And I'm going to delete them too. So if I do a solid line, and this can cause a real mess. Notice that it makes this part of the primary key. And we don't want that. The solid line does that. This is called an identifying relationship. It means that the foreign key is also part of the primary key. And generally we don't want that. So I'm going to see if I can get this one and delete and delete.
There are many times that we would want that.
So some of the times you would want that is like in a linking table. You know, when I was doing the composite key. So then the foreign key would be part of the primary key, and it would be part of the primary key. There's some other times you'd want that, but if you do that a lot, and the reason I know this is that the last time I did this in the 220 class, I didn't know that the difference between these two, why they were working different. And it ended up where you had all these tables with 5 or 6, things that had a lot of links. It had 5 or 6 fields in the primary key, and it was just a mess. And it was impossible to enter data into it. So the dashed line is the one you want. There's other ways to do the keys. So this is a real fast way, except it's a little dangerous because of what I said. You can also, when you do a table, so I'm just going to bring up the data here. Down here, you'll notice there's a little thing that says foreign keys. And there is, right now, there is a foreign key for places, because we did that. And if I click on that, it shows me what field it links to over here. And you can do this manually rather than use these, and it will put the symbol in there for you.
How do you get to that?
This.
Solid line versus.
All right, so they're in the toolbar over here. And what I did is I hit the X to close this down. Here, I'll come show you. Navigating this takes a little bit, so this is probably in your way. So if you close this, then you can see that. Yeah, one is dash. 90% of the time, that's what it is. You shouldn't need that if you're not in, are you in the virtual? But did you do it in the virtual machine? Because it looks like you started it. Oh, yeah. It has to be inside the virtual. Yeah. Didn't you do it before in that?
Oh, it froze. Like,
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
So what do we do? Look at, drop this down, so click that little box. And the one blue is dash.
No, leave it work.
Click on that. And then click on this one. And then click on this one. So click on it. And just click on the line. And it has that little blue thing in it.
You can't really run it now. Probably.
Like this. So what you want to do? Oh, click over.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Mine's just 17. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's out there for most of the night, just bullshit.
Actually, I
Out, drinking.
We've already.
Kevin wanted to take off, Jody had to take off, so me and Adam went to take dicks, so we went down the corridors.
Oh, nice. My neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah, I live right about that, so.
Oh, nice.
We want one.
Where at?
Yeah, so what we want to do.
Oh, cool. I'm on,
So click on it now.
yeah.
You're just down there.
And then click.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what happened before is.
It's like the other whole other spot.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have the middle
Oh,
one.
it's a pretty good one. This guy, he was.
So if you accidentally just notice it got the click.
Yeah. It's like that. Yeah.
No, you have places, I mean, it doesn't matter which.
I never really associated much going on down there, but like
That looks.
this neighborhood has been really
You
nice.
just have them.
It's like all these like houses from the 60s.
It doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so
I grew up in Cedar.
Oh, okay.
we've got members, events, and places, and we've actually managed to create a relationship.
And again, we can modify these. You can always, if the relationships are wrong, you can just click on it, get that little blue dot, and delete it. And you can delete any of these at any time if you decide you need to. So let's do, what else do we need for this? What other tables?
Speakers, maybe?
Speakers might be good because we do have, we might need to think about this in a bit too.
What about like groups, because you're gonna have the officers and regular members.
You know what? One of the things that we should probably add to members. So we could do groups, but really I think the only thing we need to do is maybe say officer, member officer, and make that like a yes or no. So let's see what they have for a yes or no data type. So we do have, no, binary actually is for like putting a,
They have Boolean.
Yeah, they have Boolean.
yeah, so let's do Boolean. So, and I'm going to, interesting, Boolean is a tiny int, which means it's basically a 0 or 1. So if it's a 1, they are an officer. If they're not, because it's the only distinction we really made is that they were an officer. They had, only officers could add certain things, right? Okay, so we added that to members. What else do we need for a table? There's a lot of stuff we got if we remember what we needed to do. So there's also the meetings and the meeting notes. And there were speakers. Speakers could be related to events. Here's a question when you're working on this. What does an event mean in this context? I would assume an event is someplace you go to either to listen to speakers or to like a meetup. You know, it could be any kind of thing. We could have, do events always have speakers? Yeah. Is an event something different than a speaker? I mean, these are things you have to define when you're doing this. And I don't care how we define it. We just.
I would think that they are different. Because an event can be like going to a coding.
Right. So like a coding camp or a meetup.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's fine with me. If you want to define events separate than speakers, that's fine. So speakers could be a table. Let's go down here. We're doing this just off the cuff and designing this just as to let you know. You should probably, this would take weeks because you would have to talk to people. You'd have to figure out what it really is that you need for your thing. You would probably have, you know, I would design it on paper before I designed it in here, just to let you know, because it's, you know, we're just sort of doing this off the cuff for time constraints, but yeah, I mean, if we did another table, we could add.
Speakers could be linked to an announcement table.
Right. Although so one of the things, an announcement could also be an announcement of an event. So we need to think about that, but we do need probably an announcements table. I'm actually going to just add some tables and then we'll add fields after. So let's call this one announcements. Is that how you spell announcements? Looks wrong. All right. And then what other, for now, let's just do what tables we need and then we'll add data to them. I might even let you guys do some of that. And not data, but fields. We also talked about resources, right? So one of the things that they could do is they could post like tutorials, links to tutorials, links to books, links to videos. So resources. Okay, so where is that? Oh, it's over this way. And then up. There we go. I'm just putting in a primary key for now. So the other thing I can think of, so with the resources, there were comments on resources. So if I kill this, so I think what we'll do, let's do comments. And it might not be obvious that you would do that as a separate table, but it's one of those, there are many of them, right? So many comments on one resource. So you probably need to break the comments into a separate table. We'll talk a little bit about it, you know, normalization again in a little bit. And then the other thing we'll probably need, and I think then we'll have most of the tables. And I may just let you guys do some of the rest of it while I circulate. But let's do meetings, right? Because they're going to be meetings. And you can kind of think, I'm going to let you guys think, I think, of what some of the fields would be in these. And I don't know, this is a question, and it's a serious question. Would you do your notes for the meeting in the meeting, like the minutes for the meeting in the meeting, or have it as a separate table? I honestly don't have a clear idea which way I would prefer to do it. So there's a logic to that. It's a different thing than the meeting. The minutes on the meeting are a different thing in the meeting, and you would have a lot of empty for the meetings that haven't happened yet. You would have a lot of empty fields, right, that you haven't filled in because the meeting hasn't happened yet. On the other hand, there's always going to be just probably one set of minutes for every meeting. So you could actually do a one-to-one relationship if you wanted to have a. But the meeting notes could be separate or it could be in here. I don't. My general instinct is to make it a separate table just because it's kind of a separate thing than the meeting itself. But you could argue rationally that it could go in the meeting table. I'm going to add just the meeting notes. I think that's most of the tables that we would need, but I'm not going to promise that. There may be some relations that require linking tables here that we don't have. How would you guys feel about working on these and just adding fields to them now that we have those? And then I can help you with, and maybe try on the relations and I can help with the relations. We could review it together before we build the database. But I thought maybe you'd rather be more active and not just listen to me while we go through these. You kind of like just listening?
Yeah.
It's up to you guys. We could walk through each of them together. That seems to be consensus. Okay. You don't know how tired I am. All right, so let's do, just in random order here, speaker. What columns do we need for speaker?
First name, last name, phone number.
All right. And there's a reason I'm doing, so we've already got first name and last name under members. So it's actually a good idea to name them so that it's clear that they're not in the same table when we start doing queries. So I'm going to do first speaker, last name, phone number. Is that all we need? You might want, yeah, probably email. Possibly, like doctor or professor. What are you thinking of for title?
Whatever your specialty is.
So their position.
Maybe, yeah, position. You could, I mean, if you wanted to, you could probably, I don't necessarily want to get too elaborate here, but in real life, you might want to know what their specialty is. You might have other information about the speaker that you want to put in here. Where they work, possibly, things like that, if they work somewhere. I'm just going to keep it a little bit simple. Right now they're all Varchar 45, but we could certainly change the phone to we did we did varchar, what was it, 10?
Yeah.
And we did speaker email, could go up to 255. There are some long emails. None of them probably go to 255. I would require that. If you want speaker title, you could do that too. You're not limited to what I do here. You guys got this? If you're not, if you fall too far behind, let me know. I might be able to make this available to you if we need to. I mean, the model. Unlike SQL Server, this is movable. It's a separate file. All right, so we got speaker. We'll do relations afterwards. Would an announcement have in it? Probably, yeah, that sounds good. Maybe the actual text of the announcement. We don't know what, there might not be much more in there but those. Oh, the date. You'd probably want the date. I do, but if I use those other things, it'll add it, right? The foreign keys. Unlike SQL Server, this one adds the foreign keys automatically, so I don't want to duplicate it. So when we're building these, we'll not think of foreign keys right now. We'll add those when we do the relationships. The date should be required. You can move these around as you need. Where do we want to go next? Resources, that sounds good. All right, so a resource, probably a resource name or title. What do you want to call it? Okay. You might want the resource type, and this could be a foreign key. This is something you could decide on. Because there are different kinds. There's like tutorials, book, video, you know, there could be lots of different. So you could have a lookup table of the types if you want. It's lookup tables are used to keep things consistent so that one person doesn't just, so if you wanted YouTube videos as a specific type, you would always consistently write YouTube and not sometimes write capital U-T or U-T-V, you know, so it would keep you consistent. So we could create a table called resource types if we want. Do you guys want to do that? I see some nods. Okay, so I'm going to take that out because we'll add it as a foreign key. What else do we need to know about the resource? Yeah, we need a link to where it would be, right? I'm going to say resource. We'll just say link. It could be like a URL. Probably would be a URL. I'm not going to make it required because maybe it'll be just a library book.
What if you make the resource name a primary key?
Oh, I didn't mean to. Good eye. What else do we need to know about it? Maybe a description? And I would make it bigger than 45, but I don't think I want to make it a big blob text. Actually, 255 is max for that. Okay. Oh, yeah. I noticed
these map exactly to those. I just noticed that. All right. Anything else for a resource? I can think of maybe one or two other things. You might want to, we probably want to know the member that adds it, would begin to be a foreign key. And I think we would want, I'm going to say resource date added. We'd want to know when it was added. Does this make sense? I'm kind of doing a lot of this for you. And I'm going to do some relationships now before I forget them. Yes, we do. Thank you. You're paying attention better than me. I don't think we need date time added. Does it, if you were doing this on your own, do you think you'd come up with similar fields, or no, or yes? So let's do a couple of things for relationships just before so I don't forget them. I'm going to basically, we'll do the speaker would, not speaker, the member would be related to announcements, right? So I'm going to do the one again with the dashed one. I'm going to click here, and it puts the member as a foreign key here. As I said, it's weird to me that you click on the foreign key side first, but that's how it does it. Yeah, so similar for resources. So I'm going to, again, do the dashed one. I'm going to click on resources and member. Now, just because I'm just going to move this over. I'm just trying to arrange it so it sort of makes more sense. Maybe move this up to here. All right. So we got meetings. Let's see, speakers don't. I'm wondering, so with speakers, an announcement isn't always of a speaker, right?
Announcements would have speakers and events.
They might.
So would this be a good place to put a linking table?
Well, I'm just trying to think about. Part of me just wants to say that speakers can be related to events, but that there doesn't have to be a speaker. Just because it's really hard to link the two keys for the same thing. Does that make sense? It's really hard to. So I suppose you could go from announcements, you could go to events, and you could go to speakers, but you need more than a speaker. This is the speaker. We need the place where they're speaking, right? And is that going to be an event, or is that, do we have another name for that? We would need another table or something if we're going to keep that separate. I have a kind of dumb name for it. So events and speaking events. You guys have a better name? It is quite possible for you to have a better name than speaking events. Yeah, but a conference isn't necessarily. Yeah. Presentations might be good. Now, I'm going to do a presentation ID. So I said this could get so we're going to need the place and the time. I think I'm going to do
Presentation topic, although that could vary. I'm thinking, so when you do have speakers, sometimes you have mini speakers. Does that make sense? So we might need a linking table. This might be just the place and the time, and then we could have a details where we match speakers and topics and to that event, that presentation. Depends on how fancy you want to get. I'm going to do the date, and we'll change this to date. And I'm going to add a place to this. So we have places, right? So I don't want that. I want this one. I'm going to do presentation and hook it to place, because a presentation will be at a place. So I have a date and a time and a place. And I'm going to add another table, which will be, I'm going to call it presentation details. And so I'm going to give it a primary key. And it's mostly, and I'm going to give it a time. So I'm going to call this time. Should probably have a capital T there. No space. Oh, but then I lost the T, so it wasn't a space there. Or was there? No, no, there's no space. It looks like there's a space there. I'm going to make this time, and I'm going to put a 6 in there again. And I'm going to close this, and what I'm going to do for the details, so one of the things I'm going to do is, oh, why is presentation date part of the key?
Also did it on presentation details.
I think I wanted not null, and I got the. So I'm just undoing this second key. So I want presentation details and presentation, so it's linked to the presentation. I'm going to link the speaker to it. So I'm going to click here and then on the speaker, so the speaker is linked to it. All right, so the speaker is, let's get the comments over here. We've got the speaker and the time and the presentation. Is there anything else we need to? We could add, I'm going to do in here, because you could have multiple speakers, each one will have their own presentation detail. I should have left that. All right. I'm just going to say presentation topic. And make it 255. So if there's only one person, this is kind of redundant, but if there's lots of people presenting, you have a place where you have the presentation, and you have the date for the presentation, and then you have the time for the individual speakers and their topics. All right, so the speakers and the times are matched down here. So one presentation can have many speakers. Conference might be a better word for it. I don't know. Okay. We should, so we got presentations, dates. Announcements could be, we've got the speaker. The announcement could be for presentations or events, right?
I'm trying to think of how to do that, how to resolve the two together. You guys have ideas for the presentation? I mean, for the announcement needs to be for a presentation or an event. I have kind of a fakey solution that might work, which is to add present announcement type or announcement, and then basically say presentation or event and then a link. But that doesn't actually work very well either. I know I've done this before, resolved it before. I think in the past I've just been separate. I'm going to do something that's not a great idea. But I'm going to do it. So actually, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just do a foreign key to events. That didn't work. I'm going to do many events, one announcement. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for presentations. So one of these will probably always be null. Did that go? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So I've got a few free-floating tables here. So I made I may adjust this later if I can think of a better way to do that. Because the way it is now, well, actually, so this just ties it to the announcement. That actually might work.
Yeah.
The way it
The
is.
announcement could also be about neither of them.
Yes.
So you wind up.
Which is actually okay, because they're just tied. If you want to look at a thing, you can do a query for the announcement key for here and here, and if there's nothing there, they just roll the return.
Yeah.
I'll think about it, though. I'm still not convinced. We're getting complicated here, right? One of the things we need are the meetings and notes. And those, then we're done, I think, with most of these. I'm just moving those tables sort of out of the way. And I'm trying to arrange it so it looks nice. And I think, we still got like 50 minutes, right? I don't know how long of that I can last, but we'll see. So let's fill these out. We'll save this, and then I may just call that good for the night and come and help people, right? Because it's a lot. So let's do meetings real quickly. Meetings would be, yeah, so we want to know the time. Probably date and time, right? And we could do it as date and then do time, or we could do them together. Let's do them separately. Let's do date, meeting time. Do we need a meeting place? And again, I put the 6 in there. We're going to assume that the meetings are always in the same place.
I think it would be good to have.
So maybe move the place over
Like
there.
if you're in a school, it could be one room and another room.
Yeah.
Should we make the meeting in places then?
We could just move, the place thing can contain the places for these two, right? So we could just drag a place key in there. Is there anything else that we'd want? Just when we get to the meeting minutes, we'd have other things. Meetings date, meetings time, we'll add, drag a place into it. That might all be all we need for the heading stuff for this. So I'm going to, this column, I'm going to see if I can delete it.
Right click, delete, select it.
I'm trying that
You had it before.
right here.
Delete, select.
Oh, delete selected, okay. So I'm going to close that. So that's our meetings notes. Now, comments actually go over with the resources. And we didn't do our resource type table yet either, did we?
No.
All right. So we got meetings. Meeting notes would definitely be, I'm going to just make the relationship here. It'd be dependent on meetings. One of the things that we might want is like a linking table here. This is sort of sad, but we want to know which members attended. So I'm going to say attending, or whatever we want, a meeting, attending meeting. How about members attending? Or members meeting, whatever you want to name it. Attendance could be good. I don't know if I need a, let's don't put any fields in this right now. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I am going to use the solid one. And I'm going to click here and then here. Notice how it makes, oh, I hit announcements. That's not what I wanted. I want members. I thought that's where I was. That's a long ways up there. All right, so solid again. I'm going to click on here, come way up to members and do that. So it has members. And then I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to do a solid one. And I'm going to do meeting notes and meeting. Oh, I went the wrong way. So I need to kill that. Come on.
Undo works a bit more.
Yeah, I probably should do that too. Okay, so this just consists of which meetings were there at that meeting. Meeting notes, I would also have, didn't turn that into a part of the primary key. Oh, that's because I'm in meeting notes. All right, so what else do we want to know? Like the topic, meeting topics? Or what, you know, maybe just meeting notes, the actual minutes, maybe you know, maybe the meeting minutes, just so that the discussion. Now this one, because it's going to be bigger, I think that the data type for this is, let's try long text. It might be medium text.
I forget what the type of.
Yeah, and I don't remember either. The text would be, I believe long text is when you need to go beyond the 255 characters. So you can go on as long as need be.
I'm also going to just do a column that, well, let's just do the minutes. Let's just let that be good. I'm going to just try to delete this one. Yeah, why do I keep missing that when I look at it? All right, I think that's good enough for this.
Long text is 4 gigabytes, so
Oh.
medium text might be worth it.
Yeah, it might be. All right, so the very last things, comments go with resources. So I'm going to put the comment up here, closer to the resources. It's still, this is going to be a mess. This one, the dashed line, I'm going to click here and here. So one resource can have many comments, and then I'm just going to add a few. So there'll be the comment text. There'll be another foreign key too. I'm just going to make this, we're going to limit comments to 255 characters. I'm going to say a comment rating, and we'll make that int, right? So basically we're thinking of rating it 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 for the resource. It should just be int, so at the very top, yeah. I don't want that as a primary key, I just want it as not null. And I'm going to bring a member, right? Because a member has to do a comment. So I'm going to make a member thing. As I said, these are starting to get out of control in terms of laying this out so that it's readable. If you guys will probably have much better luck because you have a less cramped space in terms of laying this out properly. The only thing that we have left is the lookup table for resource type.
Is comments a dash just resource or solid line?
Should be a dash. The solid line is just, I did it for the linking table. So resources, places, events, meetings, meeting notes, meetings, membership meeting that's linked into a lot of other stuff. It's getting there, but it's still a mess. I'm going to do a lookup table, and this is the last table we will do. And this is basically for resource type. And that will make the key field for that. And we'll also do, we're just going to do resource type name is the only field in here. It's just a list of names. We could do description, I guess. But I think I'm just going to let that be. And I'm going to do a dashed one again, here to here. And we are essentially done. And that's much faster than the real life. And I'm not 100% sure of this, but I want to show how to save the model. And I might show you how to actually build it. And then I'll come around and help you, and we'll just call this good, because I think a lot of people will need a little bit of going over with this. So do you want me to walk through it from the top?
I don't know if we can look at it all, but we got members, right? And we got first name, last name, email, and whether they're an officer. Members can post resources, so but only members can do this, so that's why there's a member's ID in there, which member posted it. And a resource has a name and a link and a description and
Data.
yeah, now this looks backwards. This is backwards. Date added, but I'm going to delete this one. As I said, I'm tired, so I'm going to do this. This one should be, click on the the resource type should be first. Let me escape that. This is the foreign key, this is the key. Right, yeah, so the resource type is recorded in here. What kind of resource is it? And this is just a list of types. We got a list of places. The places go to the presentations and the events. We didn't actually put that, we didn't actually link that to meeting, did we? Oh, well. See how complicated this can get? So comments go on resources, you can comment on them. Like, that was a great book, or that was a good video, or that video stank. You know, you can make your own comments. What else what questions do you have? Mine is a mess because, and I could make meetings relate to place. If I did a click on meetings and click on place. All right. So I'm going to come around and help you with this, but I want to show you how to save these. So let's save our design. There's a little disk here, or you can do File, Save Model, probably Save Model As. And let's save it as, it goes to my documents. And I'm going to save it as Python Club Model. Now, one of the nice things here is that this model file is separate. You can move it around. It's not like SQL Server where it was unmovable, basically. And you can load this model file. And you actually, if you took this home, you could load it into you know, MySQL there if you had it. So this file is movable. This is not the database. This is a design for the database. I'm going to show you the last step, which is probably shouldn't, but I will. If you go to, I think it's database, might be tools. Yeah, forward engineer. So nothing is fatal, because if you totally screw this up, don't forward engineer if you're not done. But you can go in and drop the database and do it again. Forward engineer will take this and turn it into a database. Reverse engineer will take a database and give you a design, right, a model. So I'm gonna forward engineer this. I'm not 100% sure of this, but I'll just show you how to do this. And again, don't do this until you're done. I'm just going to do local instance. I'm not sure you even have to do that because the host name is local, so the default schema. Most of this, you just do the defaults. I'm not even sure I need the local instance of the MySQL router. I'm going to do next. You have options here. For the most part, I am just going to ignore them right now. There's nothing that really matters here. Now, if you have data, you can enter data into the model, but it'll just go away when you build this. But if you do generate insert, I think it'll transfer the data over too.
I'm just going to do next. And don't worry about, so the password is for root, and I need to do p@ssw0rd1 or whatever you did. Now, if you want to, this is a bad idea in real life, but you can do save password in the vault, and you never have to type your password again. So I'm just going to do that, but as I said, it's not a great idea. So it's got table objects. We don't have any view objects. We don't have any of these. We don't have any triggers. We don't have any of these other things. So we can just go with the tables. Notice what it does is it creates an SQL script for the tables that we have created. And you can modify this at this point if you want. But this is basically what we scripted. What's scripted from our design. I'm going to go next, and it's going to execute it, and it says it forward engineered it successfully. So I'm going to close this, and if I go to, see that little house in the corner? If I go there, I want to go home. Where is browse, read, filter? Oh, down here, I'm going to click on, is it my local instance? They've changed the view of this a little bit since I played with it lately. Yes. So this is, notice this is a little bit different view. This is the actual database view. And if I go down to databases, notice I've got a Python club, and I've got tables. And if I open the tables, they're all there. I know you can't see this from the back, and it's kind of a pain. But it has the comments, events, and meeting notes. It created all those tables, and this is the actual database. The other was all design. But it's that easy to transfer your design to database as long as you get your design done. And as I said, what I'm going to do now for the next few minutes is help everybody get caught up on this. Because we went through it pretty fast. I will, if you want to go back to your design, we can go back to, notice up here there's tabs. If I click, there's that. Here's the actual diagram. This is the model schema. This is so this is the diagram in the model. And local instance gives you the database. And what we'll do next time is we'll add data. I mean, I'm trying to accelerate this so that we catch up. And then we'll do, you know, so we're doing this kind of together. Now, for the assignment, what I want in the end, and it doesn't have to be today, but is basically some kind of screenshot of this would work. Right. That's all you have to do is just take like a snippet of this. And if you don't have all the tables in the view, that's okay. But just sort of a picture of this and just upload it into Canvas, just as evidence that you were there and did it. I suppose you could upload the model file if you really want to, but the screenshot would be sufficient. So I'm going to kill the video, and then I'm going to come around and help people. And then have a great weekend if you're done, but I'll come around and help. So to do the video, I'm just going to come out of here for a moment. Hit this.